Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sanjeev. Thank you for joining us for this very special session on the LLM in Law and Development program from Azim Premji University. Today, we have with us faculty member Neeraj Grover, who will be taking you through the next 1 hour. The proceeding will be as follows. Neeraj will be speaking about the core courses, the electives, the field component, and the expected outcomes and the dissertation. The presentation itself will be about 10 to 15 minutes, following which we'll be open for questions and answers, right? And you can type your questions in the chat box. Any admissions related questions will be answered by the admissions teams. For the faculty, we will request you that you keep the questions program specific. Now, just a quick word and an introduction before we get into that. The Azim Premji University was started in 2011 based on the Azim Premji University Act of 2010. It was started as a fully philanthropic, non-profit entity with a clear social purpose. Our motto is education for social change, and our desired outcome is that we contribute to a more just, equitable, humane, and sustainable society. We hope that from this session, you'll be able to clarify all your doubts about the program and move forward with your application. So, Neeraj, over to you.
Thank you, Sanjeev, and welcome to the session. Um, what I'm going to do is introduce the program very briefly. I will take about 15-20 minutes. I will tell you how basically we've structured the program, what's the rationale for the program, and generally, how is this program different from any other regular LLM? And then maybe for the rest of the time that we have, we can use the questions and answers session to clarify more about the program. So in that sense, I will rely on the Q&A session to make clarifications about the program after I make the introductions. All right. So I'm assuming that most of you have applied. So there is a clear interest that all of you have in the program. Now, obviously, our program is a master's level program. So we are more focused than a general law degree. Our focus is on law and development, by which we mean several things, right? The first thing is that we don't really do a lot of doctrinal law at the school. So we in the 1 year that you spend with us, there's very little of section by section and case law by case law kind of studying the law with us. What we are focused on is what we call law in the context, also law and society, which means that our focus is on how law operates within the broader realm of the society in which it is placed. So, beyond just the regular technical approach to law, we try to equate law with society, which means we bring in other branches of social studies and humanities into studying law. These branches could be a myriad of other branches, right? They could be economics. We bring in law in economics, uh, anthropology, sociology, and even culture studies to some extent, right? So, why do we do that? Why do we not so excessively rely on a very technical, doctrinal approach to law? It's because, as a faculty, we believe that law doesn't operate in a silo, that law does not work in isolation, devoid of the society in which it is situated. We believe that in order to understand the working of law, we need to also understand the context in which the law works, which, in other words, means that we need to understand uh, a thing or two about the society in which the law is being implemented. If we take away our understanding of the culture and of the society, law alone, we don't think will make much sense. And that's the approach with which we've started this LLM, right? A lot of this LLM is interdisciplinary, which means apart from law and beyond the hard doctrinal technical law, we move to other social studies and connect it with the law. Now, what's the consequence of all that? Why am I telling you all of this? It's because if you come to us with an expectation that um, you will learn lots and lots of case laws, you will learn technical stuff about statutes, and you will learn very specific areas and domains of law, then you might be a little disappointed because we are not doing just that. Of course, law is at the core of what we are trying to do. It's a master's in law after all. But it is not, as I said, isolated from other disciplines, which means that when we try to run a course, we make sure that there is a lot of interdisciplinary angles in every course that we run. So take, for example, a core course that we run. It's called Research Methods. Now, research methods, ideally, in a usual law school, would mean somebody telling you how to look at case laws, how to look at statutes, etc. We don't stop there. We tell you how to also think of a research question in humanities, or what kind of research questions holds good in law and society studies. How should you approach a question that appears to be purely legal but has connections within the society in which it is located? So that's the broad approach. Now, development is a topical subject. Everything in the last 5-10 years has been pretty much about development. You see it in politics, you see it in economics, you see it even in pop culture now, right? To some extent. So in reading law and development, we are focusing on law and development as a broad area of inquiry. We understand that development is not a very narrow subject. Everything has an impact on development, right? Even someone who reads culture studies could draw linkages between culture and development, right? People have drawn linkages between economics and development for ages. Good economics could mean good development. So we try to go beyond that in a way. We also draw linkages between economics, social sciences, humanities generally. And therefore, we have a range of courses that intervene from each of these different angles. So before I move further, and I'm afraid that this discussion might become a bit abstract if I continue to talk like this, and I must refrain from going further on these lines. Let me just straight away dive into the structure of the program, right? And I'm sure many of you will have those concrete questions as well. So let me clarify it at the outset. The program is 1 year long. It usually starts in around July, but this time, and Sanjeev and admissions will clarify more on this, because of the pandemic, we are ending our last semester a bit later, so the dates may move here and there. So we usually start around July and end it the next year around the same time. It's a year that's divided into 2 semesters with a 2 months break in between. Now, that's not really a break. It's actually assigned for your fieldwork and internships, of which I'll speak more in a moment. So what do we do in these 2 semesters? The first semester has a few courses. Then you do these 2 months of work, and then come back in the second semester and do a few more courses, and that's where you end. how do we do the courses? So we've got two kinds of courses, right? So one kind of course is a core course, which is a mandatory course that everybody has to read. And the other kind of course is elective course. Elective courses are courses which you have a choice, in which you have a choice, right? Every student who enrolls in a program has to do one, two, three, four core courses and three elective courses, right, throughout the year. And in addition to the core and elective courses, you also have to do two more things. One is you have to write a dissertation, which in other words is a thesis that goes on for an entire year, which means for both the semester. And then you also have to do what we call a field practice. I'll speak more about it and explain it in a bit. Even field practice runs all throughout the year. Although the actual component of where you go to the field and make the inquiry happens in the semester break, one of those 2 months break that I just spoke about. So you've got core courses, you've got elective courses, and you've got a field practice component, and you've got a dissertation component. This is a very broad general overview of how we've structured our courses. So let's look at the core courses first. In the first semester, and as you can see on the screen now, you've got in the first semester 3 core courses that you will read. One is, of course, our flagship course, which is the Law and Development. We teach it as a course in the first semester. In addition to that, you've got Law and Justice in a Globalizing World, which is a jurisprudence-based course. And then you've got Research Methods and Legal Writing. I just spoke a couple of words about that initially, and I'll speak more in a bit. And then these are the core courses, as I said, and in addition to them, you have to choose one elective. Usually we have a bouquet of about 4 to 5 electives. Don't hold these numbers against me. They keep changing semester to semester. But on an average, we give you a bouquet of about 4 to 6 or 4 to 5 courses thereabouts, and you choose one of them. That defines your first semester. Now, as I said, there are 2 components that will run all through the year, which means all through the semesters, field practice and dissertation. Both of these will also start right in the beginning of your first semester. In the second semester, you will have one core course, which is comparative public law, also something we call as systems of governance, but we prefer calling it comparative public law. And then you'll have 2 more electives in the second semester. So remember, the first semester you had to do just 1 elective. In the second semester, you've got to do 2 electives. Now, again, we usually give you a bouquet of about 4 to 6 electives, and you choose 2 out of those options that are available to you. And then, in addition to this, you continue writing your dissertation, which you started in the first semester, and you continue being involved in your field practice that also you started in the first semester. So I think the course structure should be pretty clear by now. 3 core courses, first sem, 1 core course, second sem, 1 elective first sem, 2 electives second sem. In addition, field practice and dissertation. So in addition to the courses, now let me just speak to you a bit about what do we mean by dissertation and field practice. So dissertation is rather easy to explain, so I'll go with that first. It's a 10,000 word thesis that you write about any topic of your choice, whatever topic you choose. You can, so long as it has some broad nexus, some broad relation to law and development, or to the various branches of law. So in the past, we've had people writing about criminal laws. We've had people writing about intellectual property laws, environmental justice, cross-border relations, the role of law in women rights, feminist jurisprudence, and so on and so forth. The only thing is that your dissertation is written under supervision. So each student who reads LLM with us is assigned a faculty supervisor who not only approves your topic. Of course, the faculty supervisor has to approve the topic depending on whether your topic is reasonable, researchable, and involves a genuine question of law. So that way, your research supervisor is a gateway for approvals. In addition to just approving, your supervisor also guides you through the process. By guiding, let me be very clear, we don't mean spoon feed you. End of the day, we want to make sure that this remains your project. It is not your supervisor's project, it's yours. So we encourage our students to take ownership of their respective dissertations, thesis, right? And we, what that means is that you've got to come up with the topic, but your supervisor only offers you broad guidance. He or she may offer you may refer you to some literature, may refer you to certain questions that they think you're ignoring and you should think about, or correct your path of research where they feel that, okay, this is not going in the right direction. Let me just stop them and tell them, look, why don't you change this? So if one of my supervisees, if a student comes to me with a research proposal of writing research on laws in Russia, for example, I will definitely not approve it. Not because the question may not be right, but it just may not be feasible to do that research, right? So that goes on for a year. In addition to being supervised by a faculty member in your research thesis, we also have a committee that conducts several workshops throughout the year to support your writing exercise. Right? That's what I would like to speak about your thesis and dissertation. Now to your field practice. What is a field practice? Field practice is unlike the dissertation, which is a theoretical inquiry into a question of law. Field practice is more of a field inquiry. It's less theoretical. Of course, you have to come up with a theoretical framework, but the actual inquiry is not made inside a library, but in a real field out there. What we mean is that we formed, and it's not an individual project, it's a group project. So we divide you into groups of, say, 4 or 5, and each group has a supervisor again. And in that group, you have to find out, you have to choose a project. So various faculty members in the school have different field projects that are on the table. The groups can then choose between which projects they like and they don't like. And the projects that, say, suppose you've chosen, there is a project on human rights, there's a project on citizenship, there's a project on environment. So these are broad areas, right? They are not very specific project. You just pick up the broad area, and then you sit down and look on the specific question that you want to inquire about. So this time we also have a group on data privacy. We are supervising that group under the human rights path. So as a group, you pick a broad area, and then you figure out the specific mode of inquiry that you want to make. So suppose you want to study housing discrimination, right, in Bangalore, for example. So what you do is you develop a basic framework of what are the basic laws and regulations relating to housing. You look at some very basic literature on it. And then in that context, you go out there, interview people, meet the stakeholders, basically people who are involved in this project from before, people like lawyers or anybody else. There are lots of civil society think tanks who are involved in things like that. So you speak to them, you find out the real-time data on it, and then you come back, compile that data, make sense of it, and then say, well, this was our understanding before, and from the field we've collected this, and this is how we make sense of it. So it's actually picking up an issue, going to the field and bringing insights from the field back into the college, and then presenting that with a certain viewpoint that you may have. And that viewpoint may include a certain policy recommendation that you want to make, or a certain change in the law that you want to recommend, depending on what you've seen out there in the field. And that project runs, as I said, throughout both semesters. So the first semester, you usually meet your supervisors. Every group meets their respective supervisors. They sit with the supervisors. They have these regular meetings, and they chalk out and articulate the specific questions that they want to inquire. And then they also figure out who are the relevant stakeholders in relation to that issue, whom they want to interview out in the field. And once all these plans are finalized, there's a committee at the university that helps you with logistics, and then encourages you to go to the field and collect that data. It could be interview, it could be viewpoints, it could be numbers. It really is very broad. It depends on the nature of the project you've chosen. And then you come back in meeting with your supervisors, you figure out how to make sense of it, etc. But again, like dissertation or thesis, even the field practice project is a very student-led project. No faculty will spoon feed you, right? They will guide you, but more or less the project is yours, right? So we encourage our students to take ownership of that project. So we've got, I think I've spoken rather long, but nevertheless, let me just quickly summarize it for clarity so that we don't forget as we go along. So good, 2 semesters, 3 core courses in the first semester and 1 elective, 1 core course in the second semester with 2 electives, and then field work and dissertation that runs across both the semesters, both supervised, but dissertation being an individual project and field being a group project. In addition to that, and hopefully this is the last edition, right? In addition to that, as I said, we have a mid-semester break. The break is of 2 months. 1 out of those 2 months, more or less, and I'm speaking in approximate durations. The exact duration is 21 and 28 days, but let's not be too bothered about that. Broadly speaking, in the middle of the semester, you've got 2 months. More or less, 1 month you will spend for your field work, right? Which I just spoke about, going out to the field and making inquiries, doing exciting stuff. The other month you will spend on what we want you to do is internship. Internship, and all of your law students, you've done this in your undergraduate studies, and I'm assuming you're familiar with what a legal internship entails. It's not different. We just want to make sure that you use some of the concepts that you're learning in the course and use internship as avenue to apply those concepts or to learn more things relating to those concepts. So it's our way of pushing you outside the rosy walls of academia and into the real world. That's broadly the idea. When you come back, internship is of course also graded. So you'll have to write a short report and submit it to a member of the faculty who will interview you and assign a grade. But again, we understand that internships could be subjective, and we evaluate it accordingly. So yeah, that's insofar as the program is concerned, the duration is concerned. I have spoken about, I can see 23 minutes, bordering 24 minutes now. I initially thought I'll speak just for about 20 minutes. So let me draw this to a conclusion and use your questions more as a way to make clarifications rather than this monologue, which I'm not a big fan of because sometimes I get bored of my own voice. So yes, okay. So what do I want to conclude with? I want to conclude it. What happens after LLM? What's life after LLM? Because usually we receive questions on that count, and I think it will serve this thunder. Usually we receive questions on that count, and it will be of some use to clarify that as well. Okay, so most of our students, they spread across various sectors. So there's not really a specific sector that we are targeting. But all of our students are in one way or the other engaged in practice of law or application of law in a broader sense. So in the past, our students have gone out to academics, they've gone out to practice. People who've gone out to legal practice have mostly, and something I'm very proud of, have mostly taken up cause lawyering, right? Usually engaging with PILs, etc. Some people have gone and joined civil society, think tanks, field institutes. Some of our students have also joined the Azim Premji Foundation and engage in the education sector. Um, Other students have gone on to pursue higher studies. But we're very proud that all of these sectors where students go, they are making a good, positive impact in changing the society in their own incremental way. And that's something that we strive for. So thank you very much. I'm going to end here and open the session or hand it over back to Sanjeev, who will then manage what to do next.
Thanks, Neeraj. So I'll just start reading out the questions. We have picked out the relevant questions for you. The first one is, please explain a bit about the descriptive part of the test. Right? We'll go question by question because most of them are quite different from each other.
Sure. So, okay. So in the descriptive part of the test, what are we looking for? We usually give you a contemporary issue to write about. Something that has happened in the last 1 year legally in the field of law, some development that has taken place, or even in the last 5 years. We take that issue and we use it as a way to invite your views on that issue. Now, what we are testing there is not your memory. We are not interested in how beautifully well you can recall articles and sections. We don't find much value in it. What we are testing is your analytical and articulation skills, and also your perspective. How do you apply the law? What do you think of the law? What do you think of what you've learned so far? Do you have a sense of originally thinking about issues that matter? Or are you just going to reiterate and repeat what you've heard from media or whatever? In a way, let me demonstrate this through an example, and that might clarify this more. So let's say that one of our exam questions were probing your perspective in the Sabrimala case. Right? If you recall, it was quite a celebrated case, quite famous, where the Supreme Court dealt with the issue of whether women should be allowed inside the Sabrimala shrine or not. And the judgment more or less concurring, but there was also a dissenting judgment. So we wanted to ask you that what do you think of the constitutional morality angle there? And by that, we are not, obviously, in order to respond to that question, you will not do justice if you merely write, okay, Article 14 says this, Article 15 says this, Article 21 says this, period. No, what we are looking for is what do you think of the Supreme Court judgment based on your reading of these provisions, based on your reading of how constitutional law works. What do you make out of the Supreme Court's application of that law? And in that sense, really, we test your application, but we also test your originality and your perspective. And gradually, as you write, it also demonstrates to us in that simple, short answer that you provide, it also demonstrates to us what's your reading level like. Are you somebody who just reads ndtv.com and shapes your opinions, or have you really engaged with literature that matters, really? Literature that a law student is expected to have read. By which I don't just mean the Avtar Singhs and the D.T. Basus, but I also mean to say that if simple fact, like if you've read the judgment in full, such an important judgment, have you really gone through the text? Have you really applied your mind to it? So I think this should give you a broad sense of what we're looking at. Analytical skills, articulation, reading coverage, perspective, originality. Some of them are interlinked, of course. So yes.
That's quite a list, Neeraj. But just to play the devil's advocate here, and pun intended, are you saying that even if it goes against their own perspective, is against popular opinion, it's something that is fine as long as they can justify it? Is that something you can address? That there is no, yeah.
Absolutely. So we don't really care about the stand they take. We are agnostic to which side do our candidates argue for or against. It doesn't matter if you say that yes, women should be allowed inside the shrine, or no, women should not be allowed inside the shrine. We are agnostic to it. What matters to us is what's your reasoning, and in that reasoning also, uh, how do you demonstrate reading levels, application, perspective, originality, and how do you articulate that entire thing into an argumentative way that tells us that, okay, this candidate is really engaged with the issue, reading levels are good, language articulation skills are decent. And why is it so important? We don't do this just out of some sense of snobbery. There is a good reason we have for this, and the reason is, the kind of literature you have to read in the program, some of that literature is really dense. In the past, we've had a few candidates who've struggled with that literature. And frankly, every candidate has a skill set. Every individual, we believe, has a skill set. But there is a particular set of skills that are required to read our LLM program, because it entails reading literature.
Dear viewers, could you please be patient and bear with us for about a few minutes? Our presenter, Neeraj, our faculty, is having some technical issues with his network. Just request you kindly to bear with us till he gets back. Yes, he just messaged me. He said he had a power cut, so just till he gets back online, about 2 to 5 minutes, just please bear with us. I suppose in the meantime, I could explain about the important dates that we have. The National Entrance Test is held on March 21st, or before that, of course, more importantly, the last date for the application is Feb 27th, that is 2 Saturdays from now. And our application can be found on our website. And the entrance exam is on March 21st. And the results the results typically come out in 2 weeks after the entrance exam. And okay, yeah, we have Neeraj back. Hi, Neeraj, you can go on.
I'm so sorry. We have to bear with this. And first of all, this virus has upset a lot of things. So I'm heavily dependent on electricity, and it's raining outside with thunder. So I just had a brief disconnection, and I can guarantee that I will not have that disconnection again. So sorry about this. This is outside my control.
No worries, Neeraj. I was just filling them in on the important dates in terms of test dates and things. So you can continue.
Sure. I thought I left at clarifying the doubt about our descriptive question. If right. I was done, if I was clear enough, I think I'm done.
Okay. Yes. No. I think that was quite clear. Now, this is a good question here we have. I've heard that the assessment plans are very different at the university with no end of the semester exam. How are we evaluated?
Okay, so first of all, simplest things first. It is not true that there are no end sem exams, but it is true that the assessment patterns are very different. Our exam is not like a state board university exam. Again, I don't know, frankly, I don't want to demonize any system of education. I just want to say that we don't focus on memory skills. We don't focus so much on whether you can recall a certain reading or a certain text, which is why a large part of our exams are open book. Frankly, you have access to all your readings. You can just refer to them as you write your exam. It appears easy, but frankly, it's actually tougher than writing a closed book exam, because you've got this entire reading list available to you. And in just merely consulting and applying that reading takes a lot of time. But coming back to the question, which is a very specific one, I think all that I told you just now, about a few moments back, about our expectations from the descriptive part of the entrance exam, actually equally holds true for our expectations from internal evaluations. So when we give you a midterm exam, or when we give you an end term exam, we are looking at your engagement with the readings. A student who's read it, of course, it goes unsaid that we expect our students to have engaged with all the readings of the course. But more than that, we expect them to not just have read the readings, but also have engaged with the readings. What does that mean? It means that not only do you know the author, what he's saying or she's saying, but you know what you're saying in response to what she's saying. And that's what we really value and we prize, that sense of originality. And your response shouldn't be pulled out of thin air, right? You would have had to read that reading. You should also be aware of other readings in your course. And that's why when your response comes out to these readings, it's essentially shaped by your knowledge of all these authors whom you've engaged with throughout the duration of your course. So when you're writing an end term exam, you're really given a question that is of such a nature that you provoked to engage with the authors and provide your perspective and justify it. And I don't want to repeat and prolong the session, but you can just copy paste all that I said about our entrance exam right into this answer, and it will still hold true. Which is a good, and this is a good place for me to tell a bit or two about our classes. I'm assuming some people will ask questions sooner than later on that as well. How do we run our classes? What are our classes like? What is it to study in an Azim Premji University LLM classroom? So we don't believe in the sage on the stage model. We don't think that the faculty member comes to the stage, talks a big monologue, delivers these lectures, and students come to the class, look at the stage in the classroom as a theater act, take the entertainment and go home. Our classes are interactive and really interactive. Before every class, a set of readings are circulated in advance. And all the students of the class are expected to go through those readings and come to the class having read them. So when our students walk inside the class, they already know the readings. They don't need a teacher to lecture them on the readings. So what a teacher does in our classes is comes inside the classroom and clarifies if the students have specific pointed doubts on the readings. And more than that, the teacher has a dialogue with the students inside the classrooms. So we imagine our classrooms like these studios where ideas are exchanged. There is a sense of deep intellectual conversation that takes place, right? Most of the times we achieve it. Some of the times we are not happy with, because, some of the times we spend a lot of time in actually clarifying the reading rather than discussing the reading so much. But more or less, we really emphasize a dialogue and that sense of interaction. Obviously, I'm not saying that we'll never lecture. I'm not saying that our classes are never about lecture. There are very dense readings sometimes where part of the pedagogy dictates that the teacher has to lecture. But that's not a defining feature of our classes. The defining feature of our classes is an expectation from the students to engage and probe the lecturer rather than the lecturer just delivering the lecture and walking out. That's how classes are. So that should give you a sense of how much we value student engagement and student originality, student perspective. And it is right on our part to expect all of that to show when we conduct our exams. Now, on to the type of exams we have. So each course has a unique assessment pattern. That's because we don't think that a standard template of assessment pattern is good for all courses. Every course has a specific need, and based on that need, the course has a specific evaluation pattern. I'll give you an example. Some courses might have, and one second, sorry. Usually, there are more than one components. So all of your assessment is not dependent on just one exam or even two exams. Usually there will be three components on an average, more or less, but three on an average. So let me give an example. Some courses might have a midterm, end term, and another test, conventional. Some other courses might ask you to write a research paper, and that could become your one of your assessment components. The other courses might ask you to write a response paper, where you pick a certain author from the reading list in that course and you respond to it, and that is evaluated. Some other courses may ask you to write a book review, for example, right? The instructor gives you a choice of 4 to 5 books and you pick up one and you write a book review. So very creative stuff happening here, right? Different subjects having different assessment patterns. So this year, just as a way to demonstrate through examples again, this year we've got a course on law and development that I taught. We had one component of assessment from response papers where students were supposed to pick one of the prescribed readings and respond to that. That was about 20%. Then we had a midterm exam, which was a 24 hours take-home exam. So you write it from your home. It's a 24 hours exam, open book. And then we had a third component of an end-term exam, which is not a 24 hours, but a 4 hours exam, also open book, right? And the last component was class discussions. So how much the student is contributing to the class discussions. And in that, we don't value quantity. It's not like the student who's jumping in most of the discussion gets the highest marks. No, what we value is the quality. What are the kind of comments you're making? Are you making well-grounded comments? Have you read the readings? How much are you engaged in the course? So that's about 10% of the value. But different courses have completely different structures. So you're right to say that assessment is very different. Expectations from that assessment are also slightly different. And yeah, I hope my examples helped clarify this.
Thank you. Now we have a question. It says, will I get to work or interact with other program students, say public policy or development students? Oh, was I audible? Because there was some thunder in the background. Will I get to work or interact with other school students, say other program students, say MPG, public policy, or the MA development students? Will there be any interaction on the academic level?
Absolutely, yes.
On the cross-listed electives as well on this.
Yes, Sanjeev. Yes, you're right. Yes. One of the things that I like about working here is the interdisciplinarity. And we think true interdisciplinarity happens when people from different disciplines engage and interact. To encourage that, we've got some of the courses that are cross-listed. Cross-listed is a very Azim Premji University specific term. We use it quite often, but to explain it to you, there are some courses. So for example, I offer my elective on corporate governance, and my elective is listed not just in the LLM class, but also in the Masters of Public Policy class, right? So people who get to opt for this course, some students are from policy program, some students are from the law program, and we learn the course together. And there is a lot of interaction that happens that way. Some courses are listed not just across policy and law, but also across development. Few are listed across education. Few courses that originate in the development program are listed in the law program as well. But those are electives. The core courses are program specific always, and has to be, right? Because there is a certain discipline that requires us to run those courses only for that specific program. But electives should give you enough chances. In fact, our field practice work, which I just said is a teamwork, usually until the pandemic hit, the teams for the field practice work comprised of not just law students, but also of policy students. So even there you go, a lot of chance of interaction. Even if you don't have these courses, outside of the courses also, the culture of the university is open. You're free to walk into request a consultation with a faculty member from any school. You're free to discuss topics of your interest and topics that you think any faculty member would be interested in from any school. So that openness is always there. You're not just restricted to a silo sort of program. That's not our style. That we don't like it. Yeah.
Right. So we're at 5:20. So for the paucity of time, similar questions, I will try to club them. Okay. So we have a question, what after LLM? Please let us know on the placements. Then there's another question, what are the LLM alumni doing now? I think they're on the similar track, so you could sort of answer both of them together.
Sure, thank you. I think I addressed a part of it initially when I was trying to speak about the program, but what about placements? Usually, I'm not the best person to speak about placements because some of my own personal opinions come out, but I'll attempt. So placements this is a master's program, okay? This is not an undergraduate school. And also, we are not really so obsessed with placements at this moment. That we think that when you join us, at least I'm speaking of the LLM program, at least when you join us, we think you come with a certain maturity. It's a master's program after all. It's not a bachelor's program. So we think you already have a certain view of how and where you want to be. I mean, of course, it doesn't have to be permanent. Even at old age, I don't think many people are sure about what they want to be in life or do in life, but at least some preliminary ideas. What we do is we support you in a way that if you want to go somewhere, say if you want to pursue academics, we support you. Any faculty of the program will be very happy to sit with you, to discuss with you, and maybe even to refer you to somebody they know if they think um, it'll make sense for you. But what we don't do is that we are not an HR agency for you. We do not guarantee placements. We are not a headhunting organization, so don't come to us for placements. Don't expect or join the program solely on the basis of placements. You will be doing yourself and to us a great disservice. That's my request. There is a placement committee in the university. We have the placement committee has or knows some organizations in the social sector who usually they are in touch with. And if those organizations have vacancies, they contact our placement center, and the placement center runs a placement week where they make these opportunities known to you and available to you. But even that is done on a support basis. It's not done as a way of entitlement, right? We don't like, actually, the chemistry is not such that our students come to us. It's never been the case, right? It's just that because we are a master's focused program, it's never been the case that students have come to us and told us, hey, I joined this program because you said such and such lucrative job offers after, and now I'm not getting anything. So what do I do? I don't think that will be the case with any of you either. But I'm just saying that there are these support structures very much in place. There are counselors, mentors in the university who we assign to you who will be happy to discuss with you your placements, etc., but only on a more humane, informal support basis rather than a formal entitlement basis that, oh God, you're a placement committee, you're supposed to get me placed. I'm sorry, we don't take that responsibility, and we want to be clear just so that there are no misunderstandings. Yeah, and sorry, there was some other question. Okay, so where do our students go? A lot of our students, as I said initially, are in academics. By academics, I mean they're teaching in law colleges across the country, and they're doing great stuff. They're introducing these new courses. They are experimenting with research-based evaluations in state universities, and they are making classroom experience very interesting and changing the conventional culture of classrooms at these law colleges. A lot of our students have joined good law colleges and are furthering these law colleges' aim of improving quality of legal education in the country. These colleges are in Bangalore, across most of South India. Some are in North India as well. So yeah, academics happens to be one of the good ways for our students to engage with the subject. Some of those students, I mean, from batches 2016 have in fact moved on from their teaching positions to pursue PhD, and very soon they will finish up their PhDs, and maybe, who knows, 4 or 5 years down the line, publish a book or something and then come back. Apart from academics, some of our students, as I said, go and join back practice. By practice, I mean litigation, where they engage with cause lawyering, PILs, etc., just general litigation practice. And we think it's of great service to the society if we have good lawyers in the bar in doing good litigation, because usually, as both you and I know, there's scarcity of good lawyers in the country, and we need a lot of them if we have to do right by our constitutional values. So that's something we are proud of. Some of our students have gone and joined back litigation. The other batch of students have gone and joined civil society organizations. These are organizations that are engaged in policy work, think tanks, and people who are engaged with specific cause-oriented advocacy. So places that engage in women's rights, for example, places that engage with privacy rights, places that engage with environmental justice, for example. These are the places where our students go. And a last and a small number of students, they either straight away get into a second LLM or a PhD, or straight away get into some corporate commercial organizations. But that's a very small, negligible number of students. Yeah.
Thanks, Neeraj. In fact, I would just add to that for those who wish to know a bit about the careers. As he rightly said, we do have a placement team. And I think you're right about the sense of entitlement, or rather not encouraging that. But we do have a very supportive placement team, and they will be speaking to our audience and participants on 24th of Feb. So those who are interested in the careers aspect and a deeper look into that and how our placement team works on that can join us in the same channel, Azim Premji University Admissions channel, 2 Wednesdays from now, Feb 24th. Now, this is a good question. Is this program for lawyers who have already worked in the development sector, or can fresh graduates also apply? And I'd like to add a bit to that. Is there any advantage in having prior work experience, development or otherwise, in the legal field when you come to this course? Would you be able to absorb the course better, or is there any such added advantage? Good. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Good question. So, an interesting question. There's a long response, which I'll refrain from. I'll refer a shorter version of the response. For us, the answer is both. Who's the program for? Both. By both, I mean fresh graduates as well as lawyers with working experience. The reason is that there is value for us in engaging with both students. This is some discussion that we had with internally as well. We once, I recall very vividly now, a discussion that we had with, in fact, the team that Sanjeev works with in the university, where we were asked, what's your ideal classroom? And I remember responding by saying, our ideal classroom is a classroom of a good proportion of both working professionals as well as fresh graduates. We think that fresh graduates bring a certain perspective to the classroom that working professionals have given up. There is some good value in that whole romantic naivety with engaging in some very hardcore legal concepts that fresh graduates bring to the classroom. And we value that. We want to encourage that sense of pursuit. But at the same time, when that sort of viewpoint is balanced with a more real world mature viewpoint of somebody who's seen the crude ways in which society works, I think then the classroom becomes a very good spot for balancing out these two sides of the table. And because one has to only become God in order to figure which side is right, I think the classroom, the best kind of a classroom is a classroom that has both of these kind of people. So if you are a fresh graduate, you're most welcome to join the program. And so welcome are you if you are a working professional as well. Both people benefit, and we benefit from the both of you. Also, just to give a crude point, the course is not designed with any specific thing in mind. When you design these courses, we don't think of, okay, whether the student will need to have some experience to take up this course. No. So long as you have a law degree and you have an inquisitiveness, a curiosity, and some sense of capacity, both fresh and working professionals are welcome, and the course is meant for the both of them, right? Yeah.
Thanks, Kiran. Yeah. So the next one is straightforward. Will the next batch be online or offline? I think this is a common question we get for all programs given the times we live in. So it's a valid concern.
Yeah, I think Sanjeev, you better placed to answer.
Okay, I think audience will just have to wait a minute, but to answer the question, yes, as for now, we would love to be online, and it has been planned. I'm sorry, offline. It has been planned as a in-person physical semester starting from the new batch. We see no reason, uh, except for extraneous circumstances like we had last year, and let's hope that doesn't happen, because we are very clear that our learning is not just from the books or the faculty. It is also because of the interaction and the diversity you get from the kind of students we have in this campus. So, Neeraj, just to repeat for your sake, I think we lost you there for a minute.
Yeah, I was
I
saying that this is a question I don't want. I'm quite hesitant to
No.
answer on the video because it will be part of the record, so I don't want you to hold it against me. As of now,
So,
look. As of
I'll
now,
just let you know what I said. I said that we would love to have it offline, in person, physical, right? Because the best learning happens because of the interaction. That's a certain value you cannot replace in the digital with the digital platform. And also, there are students from all over the country, as you know, in our programs. So that diversity is a huge component of our learning in the, it's a non-syllabus, non-curriculum learning that is very crucial. So in the best hope, yes, I think it would be offline. And so far, that's how we're looking forward to it, is mine. And we've got a brand new campus, 80 acres with world-class facilities. So we would love to have it offline. That's how we see it for now, with the exception of any other sort of circumstances like last year. Yeah. So you could add to that from a program point of view.
no, I think that sums it up. We are trying our very best to have it on offline. In fact, we are about to transition to the second semester of our current ongoing LLM batch, and tentatively we have discussed to have the second semester offline from April onwards. But as you all know and appreciate, this is simply not in our hands. It's not our decision to make. If the cosmic forces decide the virus to mutate and the virus mutates, or if there is a second wave or a third wave, we just cannot answer that question. A lot is contingent on how the situation is. Yeah.
Now, I think we've reached the very last one. During the interview, what do you really look for in a student? Subject knowledge or passion to work in development sector? What are the assessment parameters?
All of it. We look, we look. Okay, so it's actually a very tricky question. So there are these objective criterias we have, of course, which is what's your subject knowledge level, of course, matters. Your passion for learning, of course, matters. How suitable is your candidature for higher learning also matters. But I know that for some of you, these categories may come across as overwhelming. So let me just answer it in a short and simple way. It's that we look at what you've written in your test, and we try to probe you more about it, just because we don't want to do you a disservice by admitting you into a program that you will eventually not like, or that you will eventually struggle with. That's a disservice to you. and we don't want that. So what we look for is really how much, what's your reading level, how strong are your basics, because end of the day it is a master's program, and if you come with very weak basics you might miss out on some discussions. What are your academic reading levels? So academic reading is very different from regular reading. Okay, when you're reading a fiction novel, when you're reading a crime thriller, very different parts of your brain are being applied, and you're engaged in a completely different way than, for example, compared to when you're reading philosophy, or even, I don't know, basic stuff like constitutional law, corporate law, I don't know. Though that invokes a completely different side of brain. So what we are looking for, of course, any reading is good, right? But we are looking for whether you're academically been reading or not. Because suddenly at the master's level, if we suddenly expose you to all these readings, it will be overwhelming. It will be dry and boring for you if you haven't engaged with that sort of literature before. So we look for whether you have that. Obviously, we don't want our candidates to come to us. We don't expect everyone to be Einsteins or scholars of the highest degree or whatsoever. That's not the intention. The intention, so if you tell me that you've never really in all of your law school heard about natural law, positive law, then I'm going to think that, okay, entire course of jurisprudence and this candidate has missed that, so maybe interests lie somewhere else. That's not a judgment on how good or bad you are. It's just a matchmaking process, and then you're just not suitable for us. So yeah, we look at academic reading, passion for doing something in the social sector, and generally the capacity to engage in an academic conversation in the interview. That's important, and that shows your reading thinking levels, cognition levels on academic matters.
Right, Neeraj, I think that was quite clear, and we are done for the day, but if I may bother you for one last, and this is from my side, because across programs, we have the same common concept that we want students who have passion for the development sector, right? When they come for the interview, is there a certain expectation when they say, I have passion, I want to change society, that they have to prove that they've done something along those lines prior to the interview, in the sense, not even as a full-time, but have they fought for a cause using their legal skills? Is there some expectation on that? Because obviously when they're coming knowing very well that this is our motto, they're going to say that. But you believe that you look to some sense of action to back up your claim?
No, actually, no. And thank you so much for asking that question. It's a point that I wanted to make, but I clearly missed making that point. Look, basic stuff first. Interview is interpersonal, okay? It's difficult, frankly, to put it into words. What exactly am I looking for? It's very, very difficult. It's more like I want to have a conversation with you, but I cannot define a certain type of person in words that I'm looking for. That's the difficulty. Second, what we expect you to do is to be your real self. So I also, for that reason, don't want to speak so much about what am I looking for, because I don't want you to be caricatures of a personality type that we are looking for, right? And that's counterproductive to you, to us, because you don't show us your true self. And obviously you come with these expectations, and it's natural when you know that the interviewer is looking for some specific things. It's actually very naive of you to not be those things. You're there to crack the interview at the end of the day, so you will want to be those things. But I don't want to tell you for that reason, because all I want to see is you come to us, just be yourself. Let us take the headache of figuring certain things out and leave that with us, please. So I'll refrain from saying more. I'll just say that please don't narrate some plan of development or social change just because you think we are looking for that specific type. Just be yourself. Just tell us where you are at in life, and it's a casual conversation. Just reflect what you truly are, and that will serve both you and us. It might, save you an entire year if you demonstrate who you truly are.
Right. Thanks, Hitesh. I think that's a very important aspect that you clarified. So don't come with stereotypes or right or something that you think will help you crack the exam. So
Yeah.
I think with that, we're done. I don't see any more questions. Thank you for an absolutely riveting and informative session, Neeraj.
Thanks.
Participants, as I said, the next crucial session would probably be in your interest for on the 24th of Feb. And quick dates once again, March 21st is the exam, and Feb 27th, of course, is the last date to apply. And the interview process typically starts around April to May first week, April end of May first week. You will have your results by May middle, May end at most, and the semester will start in August middle. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Neeraj. Let's go enjoy the rain now.
Yes.